Dairy. Yeah, that's right. I said it. I said the D word. Dairy. I think this word has become, or this food group as such, has become a bit of a villain in recent times. Probably up there with sugar, gluten's another one. And there seems to be a lot of people perpetuating certain weight loss and health detriments with eating dairy. And I'm going to get into that tonight. Okay, so dairy. I said it again. Now, I will preface this by saying that if you have ethical beliefs around why you don't eat dairy, obviously that is totally fine. I'm not telling you to go against your ethical beliefs. If that's your stance on it, that's fine. You do you, okay? And also if you have obviously a genuine sort of diagnosed clinically intolerance or an allergy, or even if you just find that you are 100% sure that dairy doesn't agree with you, then obviously, again, don't eat it. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is when people tend to say outside of these populations of people that dairy makes you fat, or if they cut dairy out, they lost weight. So that means that dairy makes you fat, right? That dairy is linked to cancer and the development of cancer. That dairy causes osteoporosis, and that dairy causes inflammation. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the actual research, because anybody can say things, right? And I think especially nowadays that is particularly popular. But we really do need to look at the research, right, in order to really come to a conclusion on this. So let's look at the research, shall we? So now, I'm probably going to be looking at my notes a little bit here because there's a lot to talk about and I want to make sure that I get it right. So, when we look at weight loss, for example, we see that the majority of the research suggests that dairy is associated with lower levels of hunger. So it fills us up, right? There is no relationship between dairy and BMI or dairy and weight gain. Okay? In fact, dairy has been shown to improve weight and fat loss and also increase lean mass. So, from the evidence, right, it seems that it's quite good for weight loss, right, and it doesn't increase weight gain. So, why is it that people tend to say that it does? Well, I think the biggest reason is because people cut dairy out and they lose weight, which is anecdotal for a start, but let's dive into really why it is. I mean, is it because people have stopped eating, or say like drinking milk? Or is it because they've stopped having a protein powder? Or is it because they've stopped having Greek yogurt, a little bit of Greek yogurt with their fruit, for example? Probably not, right? Is it more likely that people now aren't eating buckets of cheese and literally just sitting there and just constantly picking at it? Or that they've cut out ice cream? Or they've cut out frozen yogurts and frozen desserts? Probably more likely to be those, right? So why would that cause you to lose weight? Is it because dairy was bad? Probably not, and probably because you're now eating a hell of a lot less calories. So I think that's the biggest reason why people blame dairy for weight gain, when actually it shows that actually it's quite beneficial when obviously used within a calorie deficit, but definitely doesn't cause weight gain on its own. So next, let's look at cancer, because everyone will say that dairy will increase your chances of getting cancer. So let's have a look at, and these are all what we call meta-analyses. So these are studies that look at lots of studies. So they look at 20 odd studies involving millions of people and they come to an overall conclusion. Okay, so it's not just one study we're talking about here. So, dairy. There is no associations with an increased risk of breast cancer. Is associated with a 20% reduction in colon cancer risk. And some have even shown also a reduction in the risk of breast cancer risk. There may be a small increase in the risk of prostate cancer, which would sort of be equivalent of an extra 7 people out of 1,000 that would get that might get prostate cancer with a high dairy intake. So It's an increase, not really significant, right? I mean, 7 out of 1,000 people, not totally, obviously, insignificant, but I mean, it's dwarfed by factors such as smoking, obesity, genetics, physical activity. And there are also maybe some confounders with sort of the results of this study. Just when you look at sort of, you would have assumed that people with genuine lactose intolerance and non-lactose intolerance, you would see a difference there, right? But you actually, when you sort of further dive into these results, you don't see that increased risk. So potential small increase in prostate cancer risk, potentially not, but if so, a very small one. Then let's look at sort of other diseases. So cardiovascular disease, no associations between dairy intake and cardiovascular disease. A lot of people will say osteoporosis and that calcium leaches, and it leaches calcium from your bones and it makes your bones brittle, etc., etc. But when we look at the evidence again, what does it say? Well, it shows that when you consume dairy as a child, it actually decreases your fracture risk. And when you consume as an adult, there is either no change or a decrease in risk. Next one, hormones. That's what we always see other people talking about, right? Dairy has hormones in it, and that negatively affects, has a negative effect on your body and your physiology. Don't know why I couldn't say that. But again, let's look at the studies. When we look at these studies, yes, dairy does have hormones naturally present in it, and also hormones are added, but they have no physiological effect on human physiology because they are present in such small amounts that they just have no impact on human physiology. And this has been tested numerous times. So no, the hormones in dairy do not negatively impact human physiology. And probably the last one, and the one that, again, I see quite a lot, is inflammation. Dairy causes inflammation. Now, I mean, this is a big one just because I think most people don't even know what they mean when they say inflammation. But most studies, again, have shown that dairy has either anti-inflammatory or neutral effects. So if anything, it has no negative impact on inflammation. It may even have a positive impact on inflammation, okay? It can be actually anti-inflammatory. So I think this really just sort of reiterates the point between what you hear, what you read in some places, and actual genuine research. And I'm not expecting people to do the extensive amount of research that I do. You know, it's my passion, it's my business. I'm obviously probably going to do it a lot more than what you are, because you're going to do it in other areas of life that I'm not. But what I really want to get across to people is that just because you hear something, it doesn't mean it's true. And you need to take that and really look into it yourself, or find people that will do it for you. That's what I do for you. I do it with other people. You know, there are people in this business that are a lot smarter than me. I read their stuff and then I pass it on to you, you know, so, and you know, sort of in summary from this video, I'm not saying that you have to eat dairy. Am I saying that you should disregard your ethical beliefs and eat dairy? Of course I'm not. Am I saying that you absolutely have to eat it? No. Am I saying that if you think, or if you have done an elimination diet and you're absolutely sure that dairy just doesn't agree with you, should you eat it? Of course I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, if you want to eat it and you're not in those sort of populations that I spoke about earlier, you can eat it and it can even be beneficial for you. So it's up to you, right? What I'm trying to get people away from doing is forcing your beliefs on other people or forcing your opinions on other people. Because I'm not saying you can't have an opinion, but what I'm saying is you have to state that that is your opinion. Because your opinion that dairy causes weight gain, that it increases cancer risk, that it causes osteoporosis, that it causes inflammation, that isn't evident in the research. They're opinions that aren't supported by actual evidence. So you need to be careful when you're making these claims, because people may be taking your word for it and not doing their own research. So just be careful. And again, I'm not saying you can't have these beliefs and opinions, and that if you decide that you don't want to eat it because of that, then that's fine. That's your decision. But just be careful when you're using those opinions and talking to other people, essentially. So, there it is, dairy. It's up to you. You want to eat it, eat it. If you don't, don't. But is it going to cause a negative impact on your health and your weight? Probably not. So I hope you got some value from that, guys. If you did, please feel free to interact in the video. As always, I do appreciate it. Make sure you hit like, drop a comment, anything you thought, anything you learned, anything that's resonated with you. It's always cool to hear, so please do so. Make sure you subscribe to the channel by clicking the button in the top corner, just so you get alerts on new videos, because these free tips are coming thick and fast. And that's it. Thank you very much, as always, for tuning in, and I shall see you next time. Thank you.